So I touched on this topic a little bit in a previous video, but I am here back today to lay out some more guidelines around differentiations and distinctions in different nutritional professionals and how to start sorting out who is out there and what kind of information is out there. So we're going to start with the obvious, which is the RD, the registered dietitian. And the registered dietitian has a pretty arduous process in front of them in order to get in front of you. So we usually start with the Bachelor of Science degree. So we get all of our core scientific education there. And from there, we end up going on and getting a master's degree. We're doing this more and more because as things are evolving, the master's degree is becoming mandatory to be able to get your national registered dietitian certification. And that master's degree is a 2-year commitment, and it really is focused primarily on, and this maybe differentiates from program to program, but it is primarily focused on research methodology, reading it, understanding it, being able to disseminate it, and understanding the clinical implications for the clients that we end up working with. So that's the educational portion. And then in addition to that, dietitians are required to complete 1,200 hours of supervised practice experience. And again, depending on the program that somebody is through, there may be hours over a variety of different settings. And once those hours are complete, the dietitian then has to sit for their national registration exam. And the guidelines around our education, our clinical experience, and the exam are all overseen by our National Accreditation Council as well as the Commission on Dietetic Registration. And they have standards and codes of conduct in place, as well as guidelines on being very clear about what our scope of practice is and how to implement that once we're in front of clients. And the reason these organizations are in place are essentially consumer protection. They are wanting to make sure that we are upholding the highest level of nutritional professionalism. Is that a thing? I guess it is now. Professionalism in the area of nutrition. And they are trying really, really hard to make sure that when you sit down with a nutrition professional, you are not going to get poor, non-evidence-based nutrition garbage advice. So we're trying to prevent that. So once you sit for the exam and you pass, the dietitian then has to maintain a particular number of hours of continuing education every 2 years, every 5 years, and that can differ depending on state licensing. So in addition to having the national certification, the registered dietitian distinction, some states also then require that for some nutrition counseling, we also have to be licensed with the state. So that's why you might see some registered dietitians also have an LDN distinction. That stands for Licensed Dietitian Nutritionist. And usually all that takes is being able to provide proof that you completed all the national registration requirements. You give that to the state. Usually you have to pay a fee, and depending on the state, you may also have some different continuing education requirements that you have to maintain to uphold your license status. So that's how the registered dietitian gets to be in front of you counseling. And then we move on to the nutritionist distinction. So some dietitians actually will use the nutritionist distinction instead of saying that they're a dietitian. It can be a little bit confusing, but mostly, the population knows and understands us as nutritionists. So some dietitians just embrace that title. But in addition to dietitians being able to use that title, there are also licensed nutritionists and as well as non-licensed nutritionists, and that can really differ across the board. They typically have a nutrition science bachelor degree. They may or may not have done master's level training. They may or may not have had research focus, and there are some accreditation boards out there that actually help nutritionists become licensed to provide clinical care. The American Nutrition Association offers the designation of Certified Nutrition Specialist through their accreditation board, and essentially they require that a person have had a health-related degree already. They're required to have 1,000 hours of supervised practice. They're required to sit for an exam, and then they're also required to maintain continuing education hours that are comparable to what the RD does in order to be a certified practicing and licensed nutritionist. The American Association of Nutrition Consultants, on the other hand, represents a different kind of nutrition professional out there. So their accreditation or their credentialing program offers the designation of CNC, which I think is Certified Nutrition Consultant. And if you look at what they're requiring for that distinction, it's a high school diploma or GED. It is a $70 annual membership fee to be a part of that association. It's a list of 11 textbooks that may or may not be required reading, and then there is an exam fee of $400. And just as a reference point, the registered dietitian exam through the Commission on Dietetic Registration, right now the price is currently $200. So this is a money grab, and this is not ethical nutrition practice. So all of that to say, any nutrition professional or nutritionist that you're working with should be more than ready and willing to give you a little bit more information on their academic background and their training so that you can be confident and empowered to do your own research and make sure that you're working with a professional who is the right fit for you. So finally, let's talk about coaches. So nutrition coaches, health coaches, those types of distinctions, certifications in nutrition, all of that. So those types of distinctions are usually set aside for individuals of a different type of profession who are looking for a larger base of nutrition knowledge to build their practice or become better in their primary career. And most of these nutrition coaching or certification programs can be completed, online, although some may have like an in-person workshop component or maybe video modules. And most of them can be completed in less than a year. Some of them, if you're really committed, you might be able to crank through it in a weekend. And essentially what those programs are doing, they're providing some academic background, they're providing a little bit of nutrition science, but you're not getting really good education around research, understanding of methodology and interpretation of that, and you're certainly not getting supervised practice hours. That being said, a nutrition coach is the perfect person that you want to go to for implementation of a nutrition plan, for someone to help you with the accountability piece, to keep you on track, to help you with overcoming barriers like grocery planning, meal planning for a week, understanding meal timing, understanding hunger cues and how to plan meals, understanding what comprises a full complete meal, ways to find sources of vegan protein, differentiations between animal-based fat, plant-based fats. Those are the type of questions that a nutrition coach is perfect for, and you can work with on a weekly or monthly basis to keep you on target for implementation of your nutrition plan. Nutrition coaches and certifications, however, are not certified to do specific nutrition counseling, also known as medical nutrition therapy or MNT. And that usually includes calorie plans for weight loss, calorie plans for body composition change, macronutrient distributions, macrogram goals for particular body composition changes, calorie goals or macro goals for meals, recommendations on grams of fiber to meet for the day, recommendations around insulin or blood sugar control or cholesterol or hypertension. These are all recommendations that are outside the scope of practice for a nutrition coach or certification. Those are questions that you want to have answered and talked through with an accredited nutrition professional who's done supervised clinical practice. So ideally, in a perfect world, you'd go to that nutrition professional, talk about your health-related concerns, you would set up a nutrition plan with that professional and be able to ask any questions about what needs to be there throughout the course of a day at that time. And then once you have that plan, you take that plan to your nutrition coach or nutrition cert, and that person is able to then say, okay, great, let's break this into actionable steps that'll help you implement that over time. So that would be the best case scenario for how you would get that nutrition planning information and how best to use those different professionals. So by no means is this a comprehensive overview of nutritionists, dietitians, nutrition certifications, and all the different things that are out there. I really was just intending to do some broad strokes to make some basic distinctions. I am sure there's a lot out there if you start researching, but I hope this gives you a little bit in terms of just ways to start thinking about differentiating between each of these different types of nutrition professionals, and starts to answer some of those basic questions, as well as raise some others about how to find the right nutrition professional for you and how to implement the plan in the best way that you can. So I hope that answers some questions for you, and I'll probably see you in the next one.